Okay, with winning screenwriter Olivier Ross Perrin. Did I say that right? Perrin?
You did.
Okay.
You
Take
did.
Care is this the winning screenplay. Really interesting script. Do you want to give it a pitch? I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't even prepare for this.
Sure. Yeah. Take Care is about a healthcare professional, a psychologist, who is discovering a new side of her, living a double life to maybe escape the existential despair she doesn't really know she's living, if that makes any sense.
Okay. So that's sort of like a thematic, but I guess it's like she's like an immigrant. She's an immigrant. She's not from America. So she
Yeah,
lives in the United States, and she's kind of taken up on the American dream, I guess, right?
very much, very much. Yes, she
Education, good money, good job, and that's supposed to equal happiness, I guess, right?
exactly. She has all the pieces of the puzzle figured out.
Yeah.
She's got the education, she's got the good job, she's got the husband, she's got the kids. And she seems to be doing a pretty good job at it, but there's something behind all of it that's causing that's causing some pain that she's not how would I say it best? Pain that she is not in touch with.
Okay. So that's intriguing. So where did this idea come from for this script?
Good question, Matthew. Thanks. It came from my own experience, my own questions as a mental health care worker, noticing things within myself, changes in my personality as you start doing this for long periods of time, how it affects your relationship to other people around you, and how your ego is also affected by being someone who's in the position to help people.
So then obviously there's a little bit of autobiographical elements, but why did you choose for it to be a female, not a male in the script?
Well, I wanted it to be far away from me. I didn't want it for it to be autobiographical. I think stories tend to suffer when you don't take a little bit of distance
Yeah.
from yourself. And so that's what I wanted to do with this. I wanted to take things, concepts that I was learning or struggling with and associate it to a whole different person and see where that would take me. Many times when I was writing this screenplay, I didn't really know what was going to come next in Mady, who's the protagonist's story. It's almost as if the protagonist was telling me what was going to happen.
Oh, cool. So you didn't like it wasn't people usually outline their script and have the ending first, and you
Yeah,
didn't do that.
I never had an outline.
So, but it was a screenplay first, like it wasn't like a story,
Yeah,
like
it was a screenplay first. I started with the first scene, I ended with the last one. And then it's a bit of a it's a bit of a spiritual journey where I try and connect with what the story's telling me. And I try and figure it out as I go, which maybe isn't the most professional way of doing things, but well, this is how I'm starting.
everybody's got their own process. I guess why outlines are done is because it kind of forces people to finish their script and they can kind of work on the rewrites. But your process is like it's unconventional, but at the same time, if you get it done, then there's nothing wrong. Like you finished it. And that was like
Done.
sometimes when you don't know where you're going, sometimes you don't know when you're like you don't have the motivation or drive to to keep writing, I guess, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Motivation wasn't an issue.
yeah.
It's a bit of it's therapy in a way.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's it.
Yeah.
But you do this for you're a medical professional for a living. So what got you into writing screenplays then?
Well, it's not what I started with. I started as an actor. I've been working as a professional actor for the last 10, 12 years or so. And screenwriting has always been something I've wanted to get into, but always felt a little uncomfortable doing. I didn't know I had no formal training. I didn't know. I've obviously read tons of scripts and have met screenwriters, but I didn't know how to necessarily approach it. So I thought the best way to do it would be a guerrilla style, get into an industry, which in this case was suicide prevention, and let it inspire me to write something.
So that was the means to that suicide prevention. That sounds stressful.
Jolly.
Uh,
Yeah, no, stressful is a better word, definitely.
is there people like I'm sure you meet all kinds, right? There's all kinds of reasons people are looking for like I'm look for the one extreme looking for attention, the other extreme like they really don't care and they just want to die, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put it in a nutshell, right? People are suffering for, like you said, Matthew, all types of reasons. And some can be a bit easier to deal with, a breakup or a spat with a good friend. It could be easier to try and bring said person back to the ground. But there are other reasons, right? There are other reasons for wanting to end your life, and it can get very bleak. It can get very bleak. But it's also a beautiful experience because it's a testament to human resilience.
It's amazing. It's almost like in a sense that you're looking for some sort of purpose. And it's like that's sort of what you find in people as well. I don't know, maybe I'm just reaching there, but it seems like like that's what your script's about. Is like
Yeah, no,
what are you
it is
about?
you've really hit the nail on the head, Matthew. It is
Yeah.
about finding purpose. And I'm sure you can attest to this, but there's a lot of moments in everyone's lives where we lose our purpose and we can feel lost and we can feel that the things we've accomplished aren't accomplishments or that we aren't where we wanted to be. And to try and find that purpose is key. It's key to keeping our sanity. And we can do that in many different ways. And sometimes if you're all alone, good way of doing it is calling someone, calling a stranger and just shooting the shit, you know?
Like sometimes I can go wrong, but I guess it's the right person sometimes, I guess. So okay, so basically you wrote this script kind of like as a stream of consciousness, and then what motivated you to submit to festivals like ours? We're having a conversation now. What was your motivation for that?
Well, I told myself that there's nothing to lose in getting it out there. I had written it, I had rewritten it and rewritten it, and I thought, well, there's only so much my own introspection can give me on this.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather spend some energy showing it to others, people I don't know, people I know, and see what they think and see what kind of life this story can have. I would love for it to be a film one day. Time will tell, of course. But this seemed like the adequate step in
So
that direction.
what was your reaction because you're getting feedback and you're very close to the script. What was your reaction to that initially?
It's always hard at first, right? Hearing
Yeah,
hearing strangers talk about your story and
yeah.
oh, they're not getting it, blah, blah, blah. But it's incredibly valuable. It's incredibly valuable um, information to receive because sometimes what we think we're portraying with our words doesn't really come out. And so feedback, like the feedback I've received from your festival, really helps me fine tune small things, um, change the story into what I want it to be in the end.
And what do you want it to be?
It's a good question, Matthew. What do I want this story to be? I don't want to come off as some sort of teacher, some wise man trying to give you a lesson on what to do. But in many ways it is. In many ways, take care is exactly that, right? It's just a little memento to remind you that no matter how on top of it you think you are, we all have to keep taking care of our soul. It's a daily process.
Yeah, 100%. Which is easier said than done, right? So
Yeah, it is.
So let me ask you a question. So you made your main character an immigrant of America. So there's an extra kind of context there where this is not where she her formative years were brought. Like I'm assuming she wasn't brought up here, and so then she's almost like in a foreign place. It's almost like you're kind of making a point about like a lot of people who are immigrants who are not, they're maybe they're successful, they're happy, but this is not really their home, I guess, right? It's like trying to find home, I guess. That makes sense.
It's a beautiful way to put it, Matthew. Indeed. I think the reasoning behind making her an immigrant was, well, again, if through my own experience, having spent a lot of time in other countries, talking to people whose dream it is to come to the United States,
Yeah,
hoping that all of their problems will vanish, fly away, and that
yeah,
life will be sunshine and rainbows. They're also knowing a lot of first generation immigrants here who have all of this pressure from their peers, from their parents to be the one that lifts everyone up, that changes history for that family. And that's a huge burden to bear on your shoulders. And it's a burden that can affect you in many ways. And I think Mady doesn't really deal with that burden until much later on in her life, and she deals with it through destruction, unfortunately. Having helped people her whole life, having lived for outside of herself, having lived for other people more than living for herself, her way of taking care of herself becomes the opposite of what she's always done, which is hurting others, manipulating others, breaking others, in hopes that it will somehow heal her.
yeah. And so then that's interesting. So were you brought up, were you born in the United States?
No, I wasn't, and I'm not. I'm not an American citizen. I'm Canadian.
Oh, okay.
I was born in Canada from
I, I'm
an
Canadian
immigrant
too.
father.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah. So, but yeah, but you live in the States now, or?
No, I still live in Montreal. I'm
Okay.
still here in Montreal. Yeah.
Oh, Montreal. That's where my wife's from, Montreal. So
Really?
yeah,
It's a great place.
yeah. No, it is a great place. There's something unique about it, I guess, right? So yeah, I love going there. So yeah, look at I got the Expos hat right behind me.
Yeah, I see it. There it is.
Yeah,
Lovely.
yeah. So well, hopefully they'll get a baseball team one day, but but they'll get their baseball team back. I guess I should say. I'm still hoping for that. Speaking of hope, but okay. So we asked you in the script, like you said that you don't like answering these questions or you find it hard to answer. But how do you what genre do you like? Does a screenplay? Do you call it a thriller? But you also call it a
Yeah.
dark comedy as well.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of humor in this person's pain, unfortunately. Fortunately, unfortunately.
Sure.
I think my goal with this story is that we don't really understand why this person is doing what she's doing until the very end. And so a lot of it seems rather cartoonish or silly. She's really having fun manipulating people
Yeah.
and turning them into something they're not. And yeah, there's humor in that. There's humor in that.
There is, but can you really? I guess you can really do that. I guess right when someone's vulnerable and they it's almost like you're a mentor when you're like a therapist.
Yeah,
You kind of twist their but their job is really to listen, I guess, right? But you can kind of add in your little 2 cents and kind of manipulate, I guess, right?
of course, it doesn't take a lot when someone's being very vulnerable with you. That's why it's such a precarious position. This this position of being a listener. You have to take into account the impact you have on the people that you are listening and then adding your 2 cents to. And this is something that the protagonist of the story forgets, or at least, or maybe doesn't forget, but takes advantage of.
So, but this is not you though, right? Right?
No,
So,
no, of course not. I think it's an answer to the thoughts one can have when
We lost you there for a second.
Yeah, sorry. I
Yeah.
think it's an answer to the thoughts someone in a position of helping others can have when they're tired. And I won't hide that sometimes when you've really bled your empathy dry, you can start to have very morbid thoughts, and anger and despair can come through. And so in many ways, this screenplay for me was a way of externalizing that so that I don't do it in my day to day, or I don't do it to the people I love,
Yeah.
but so that I can put it on paper to see. And because I've also seen people use this power um, for nefarious things, right? People that have knowledge on psychology and mental health use it to hurt others. It's a reality.
Yeah, well, I think that happens. You see it happening all the time, right? Where you see it happening on like social media is a huge influencer with that, where you can kind of see people using these key words in their texts and in their politicians especially,
Yeah.
kind of using you know what I mean? You're seeing it all the time, right? But we're not privy to that, like the education or the know-how that you have, right? Or the intelligence that you have, right? So, or the
And
confidence. You got to be in a certain place of confidence as well, right? So to
speaking of
manipulate.
using that force through social media or through politics, sometimes it's not really for nefarious ends, even though it ends up that way, because our selfishness, our ego can blind us, right? Which I think is what happens mainly to the protagonist of this story. I don't think she's someone who's inherently evil. I think
No,
she's someone who's blinded.
yeah, sure. Well, we all have reasons why we do. I don't think evil is really on top of the list, right? Like for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that there's just people do things because they do it. Like in like but it's almost like you're looking for something, like it's almost like excitement, or like in your case, in your character, like excitement, or like just something different, I guess, right?
I think she's looking for a way to externalize the pain that she's felt and the pressure she's felt all these years.
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, that's the way to do it. But yeah, I guess you do see that a lot of like people immigrants coming to the country, getting an education, setting up family, then they're working for their kids, right? Their kids are gonna. It's the old cliche where like the first generation, you know, grows the tree, right? And then the second generation picks off the fruit from the tree, right? So
That's a nice analogy.
yeah, and that's their job, right? Like my dad was an immigrant, and that's sort of what they call it a responsibility, right? So,
Yeah, and that responsibility comes with a lot of weight.
but you can argue that then the next generation has just as much stress because they have to make sure that they live up to the standards of what their parents sacrificed, right? So I think there's always going to be stress, right? And expectations.
You really you said it very well. There's always going to be expectations, and there's
Yeah.
always going to be stress. So it's not an excuse to act
No,
like an
it's not.
asshole,
Yeah.
right? But we have to, as individuals, find a way to deal with that stress harmoniously
Yeah.
without hurting others.
And remember, like it's the same time that you play. I call it the game, right? You choose to get into this, capitalistic, madness of a world. Like that's your choice, right? You didn't have to do that. So,
Yeah, but it's a choice that not everyone sees, right?
yeah,
I think most people think that they're stuck with it. They're stuck
yeah,
in this capitalism.
sure, because they got a mortgage and they got kids, and it happens, right?
Yeah, the choice feels very far away.
Yeah, that's what that. Then you realize, well, what happened to my life, right?
And I think you perfectly put it there. I think that's exactly what Maddie's going through.
Yeah,
What
totally.
happened to my life is the question that is irking the protagonist and what leads her down this path.
Well, I think you're winning contests, and I think you're doing well because I think you're onto something
Thank
with the
you,
script. I think a lot of people feel that way. It's like it's a first world problem, but I think that it's still a problem, right? And it's but that's the power of the first world problem, meaning that she manipulates and she's destructive, and that's like a ripple effect, right?
Exactly. It affects everyone around.
It affects everybody, and that's the thing. Like we're like problems are still problems, right? So yeah, there's something interesting, and people are. What's your feelings of like the psychiatric environment? Say this film gets made, and there's going to be some blowback, right? So from the mental health world, I guess, right? For having a character like this.
Potentially, potentially, but it's something that's very it's something that's very real. It exists among all humans, the capacity to hurt and to destroy others. And it's not because you're someone who's studied how to help others that that doesn't exist within you. And I think when if we ignore that, if we ignore our capacity for evil, that's when it becomes a slippery slope. That's when we can have our first world problems, like you say, start being exponentially destructive.
Yeah. So what is there a movie or a show that has portrayed the mental health profession properly or well?
Well, I think of I forget what her first name is, Ramsey, a either Scottish or British director who made the film You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix,
Okay.
which is about a man struck with PTSD from years of service in the military who is now a killer for hire. But I think the film really portrays what it is to live with this force in your brain that is stronger than you, that you cannot do anything, but you're to fight against, that you're along for the ride, so to say. And yeah, that film was really wonderful. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
Yeah, well, Joaquin Phoenix seems to jump into these roles of mental health, and
Yeah,
he seems to have a string of them like along his career, right? So
I agree.
yeah, so
And
he must be doing something, right? Like he must know something, right? So
yeah, I'm pretty sure he tapped into that.
yeah, he's tapped into it. So that's the what did you think of the from the mainstream? What did you think of Sopranos? What did you think of that relationship?
The Sopranos.
Yeah.
I haven't ever watched the full
Oh
series.
my God, that's okay. That's amazing. I just threw that out there. I figure everybody's watched it. So
Is it because you find there's correlations to be had between The Sopranos and the script Take Care?
a little bit, but it's just like I was just curious what your process was because it's I guess it's more of a personal. I'm a personal fan of the show. So like Italian second generation immigrants. So basically,
Yes, at one point I'm going to have to check it out
yeah,
because everyone keeps talking about it, even though it's been years and years and years it hasn't aired. But
yeah.
in many ways, yes, like you said, it taps into this patriarchy, this pressure that's put on everyone, not just the men and the women, but the children to uphold this structure and to be part of the game, like you said.
I guess
But
what I'll give you a little watch the pilot because it's like in the first episode he's got self-pity, right? So he can't be helped. In the first episode it shows that for someone who's read books or whatever like that, he can't be helped. So basically, but she keeps bringing him on. And he kind of uses her therapy to become a better gangster, right? That's sort of one of the arcs of the show. And because it's like I'm sure you get a patient, it's like they're just in self-pity, right? They're just blaming everybody else for their problems. So how
yeah,
can you really help that person, right? So
in the end, they have to help themselves,
yeah, so
right?
you can't really be a therapist. But basically the point is you can't be a therapist to them, right? So
Yeah, that's well said. You can't help
yeah.
it. You can't help everybody.
That's what I was curious what your thought was. Yeah, just take a gander of it, right? So
I will.
because then you can start using like like in your character it's more of the reverse character meaning that like you can start using your therapist to gain insights so you can manipulate people, right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a power, right? And it's a power that can be used for good as much as it could be used for evil.
It is a power, right? So like, and we're learning as we, because we're getting more than ever before, we're learning about psycho, like just manipulation. And like, I think we are, because it's like, because of what we see on social media. I think that I always say that some 50 years from now, someone's going to go back on social media and just gain all the psychological nuggets of what happened to our society, and kind of like have some deep insights of what occurred.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's I'm sure there's going to be a lot of studies done on the brain and what this generation of scrolling and just constant content consuming does.
Yeah. And the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because it's never like just bad, it's never just good. There's something in between, right?
Yeah. And I think that's what I try and tap into when I wrote Take Care. Maddie is a great psychologist.
Yeah.
She is someone who really knows her stuff, and she most probably has helped tons of people. But there is that thing inside of her that can't be excused, right? This force that she hasn't tapped into, that she's using destructively.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of success with this script. I'm like, I hope, I know it's doing well. There's lots of variables, but it's really showing that you're a solid writer. And I think that's one thing that's happening.
Thanks, Matthew. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this.
No, in time. And so basically, I wish you the best of success, and have fun in Montreal, and let's see what happens. And don't be a stranger.
Okay,
All right.
perfect, Matthew.
Maybe
Thanks a
we'll
lot.
talk again when you write your next award-winning script.
I'd love that.